And let's talk about this a little bit more. And I'm joined by now former federal prosecutor Shan Wood to do just that. Morning to you, Shan.
Good morning, Martin.
So let me start with John Bolton. 2 weeks ago, Bolton's lawyer teased that, he had relevant information in the impeachment inquiry. Of course, now we know he's got a book that's coming out, also a political PAC now we've learned. Do you think we're ever going to see him actually testify?
I think as of today with the tweets, I think it's a little bit more likely that he will testify. I think he's, from a legal standpoint, wise to hold out on the subpoena, get his ducks in a row, try and protect himself. But really, I think from a legal standpoint, he's probably looking for possible immunity for his testimony. And that would be something that would be of great concern to the Trump defenders.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we have not heard from Bolton, even though he's apparently freed his Twitter account, is you may remember how Sondland was describing that Sondland-Mulvaney meeting, or he was describing it at one point as a drug deal to others. Right. Why isn't he denying that now, coming out forcefully?
Well, why isn't Bolton denying that right now? I think that he very much wants to keep that as his bargaining chip for how valuable his information is. I don't think he's going to walk that back. I think it's been corroborated by the other testimony, by Ms. Hill's testimony as well. So I think that's exactly what his leverage is in being able to appear in person. Give that kind of information would be extremely damaging to the Trump defense, and he wants to make it clear that he has that. He's not going to come out now and attempt to sort of soft sell that or walk it back.
Right. I agree. It would be very hard for him to do so. And I want to talk about then this new information we're getting from these documents about the phone call or phone calls between Pompeo and Rudy Giuliani that was arranged reportedly by the White House back in March. And I'm wondering, does this now really implicate President Trump in any way directly?
It's very strong circumstantial evidence of his involvement, Martin. It would be very hard to imagine that his personal assistant is going rogue and just setting up this connection between Giuliani and Pompeo. So I think it brings it right inside the Oval Office at that point. And as Kristen was reporting, it makes it really difficult to argue that the president was unaware of what was going on between Pompeo and Giuliani. I think it's very interesting for Pompeo that it required the White House's intervention to get that connection going, because that sounds to me like Pompeo was wisely trying to keep his distance from Giuliani and really had to be perhaps a little bit strong-armed into actually meeting with him.
Well, yeah, and that was my next question to you. Why is it that you need the White House directly to sort of connect these two people here? And you think at this particular point it shows that Pompeo knew that this was something he didn't necessarily want to be involved in?
I would think so. I mean, certainly were I his lawyer, I would be telling him to stay as far away as possible from Giuliani. But Pompeo's an experienced man. I mean, he's been around the block, and he would sense that this is a dangerous situation. I mean, Giuliani is acting as the president's private attorney. He's the Secretary of State. It's going to cause some concern if he is asked by Giuliani. Hard to say no. And also, if it ever comes to light, there'll be questions as to why are you meeting with the president's private attorney? What exactly is he asking you to do? So I think understandable caution on his part, but he obviously was going to have to meet with Giuliani, and the timing of that with handing over the documents, I think Giuliani was clearly pressuring for these documents to go public. Ultimately, a little bit of a whimper, not a bang, in terms of those documents.
Mm-hmm. One last thing before I let you go. Sources tell CNN that an upcoming report from the Justice Department's IG, the Inspector General, set to be released on December 9th, is now expected to show the FBI's Russia probe was launched properly, but that lower-level employees made mistakes. So I'm wondering, does that report help the president in any way?
I think it will help him a little bit. I mean, he and his defenders are very anxious for anything to always push back on the original Mueller probe origins. I worked with Michael Horowitz at the Justice Department. He's extremely thorough. Frankly, anything that he looks closely at, he's likely to find some warts on it. But the real takeaway from this, if the reporting so far has been accurate, is that there was no bad motivation and that the origins were proper, and there may have been some more technical errors at the lower level, but the origins were proper and really should put to rest, because Horowitz is very independent, should put to rest any idea that there was some sort of political bias or motivation behind the origins of the Russian investigation.
Chan Wu, always great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good to see you, Martin.